Is Dean ready?
Yeah,
I am.
All right, we're gonna break away here and go to Dean, and he's gonna do a demonstration for us. And before you get started, folks that say, "Hey, I like to see what Dean does," Dean has a YouTube channel, and I've also seen him peeking on Facebook. So if you're looking for Dean, that's where you can find him when he's not right here.
Well, thank you, Captain. So tonight we're going to do a platter. There's one little thing I want to show you folks before we get started with the platter. And I have heard somewhere that some folks tend to make funnels every once in a while. So I'm going to show you guys a device that I saw a couple of months ago, and it might help you. I whipped one up today real quick. Let's see if I can get that back up. There you go. Okay, so this piece here is just a piece of wood with a small piece that'll fit between the bedways and a piece that'll turn. When you set that down there, the one piece turns around and you can tighten that back up. Now, obviously, this will slide back and forth. So what we want to do is we'll just sit here with this little straight edge here. We're going to push this thing up till that touches the front of our chuck jaws. We're then going to tighten this down. So here's the deal. If you're turning your bowl and you check this and you push that up and there's not a gap right there, you're through the bottom. You have just made a funnel. However thick that gap is, that's how thick your bottom is. This piece is nothing but scrap wood, just something to kind of keep it lined up here. Screws going through the bottom of this to hold it upright, and a piece of scrap wood on top. Hopefully that will help everybody. Some of you that have had some problems with that in the past. I mean, obviously I haven't. I just heard of that problem, you know, not that it's ever happened to me, you know.
Hold on. We're going to call it up. I think you're second line on the funnel club.
Well, I'll set this back over here, and we'll use that in a few minutes to check the thickness of the bottom of this platter.
That's a great, Jake. Good tip.
Yeah. That's what you get here, folks. And these are all members. What are we making the platter out of tonight?
Well, this is a piece of maple that I won somewhere, one of the wood turning clubs. And so what we're going to do, some of you may have used this technique before, some of you may have not, but we're going to set this piece of wood straight against the front of the chuck. See if I can get this lined up with the tailstock here.
You already found your center on that, on your tailstock side, right?
Thank you, Dane. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I did. I had made me a couple of X's here, just corner to corner. So that let me know where my center was. We're flush up against the chuck. Give it one more. I want to make sure you're good and tight in there. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to mark where we want the tenon. Now remember, this piece of wood is only 1 inch thick. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but so if we go in with a worm screw we can go way too far real quick. So what we're going to do, we're going to come in. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and turn this on. Always make sure your lathe is free spinning before you turn it on. I recommend you turn it on slow. Bring it up to speed slow. If you're going to do this, you want to make sure that that far side never touches the wood.
While Dean's laying this out, a word of caution, folks, if you're a new turner, if your face is where this camera is, you are in the line of fire. Now, there's nothing wrong with what he was showing you, but that is not what you want to be looking at. This is what you want to be looking at.
This is what you want to be looking at. And then again, I'm just coming in like so. I am making a mark. This side over here absolutely cannot touch that wood. It will come right back at you. And you won't enjoy the way it does it.
And you read about that, correct?
I did.
Okay.
And one other thing. I'm going to ask everybody's forgiveness because up to this point, I didn't have a face shield on, and that's unacceptable in any way.
Well, we have Jeff Shell on his way over there to see you right now. So
yeah, guys, if you're going to be turning, wear a face shield or wear something to protect your face. You may not think you're pretty, but your wife does. So, you know, let's keep it that way. Okay, so what we're going to do now that we've got that mark made, we're going to come in and we're going to make a tenon there. Never a bad idea to check that tailstock a few times, make sure it's still tight. Can you see that cut? Okay, I'm just making a cut in there. Again, the only thing we're trying to do at this point is get that tenon there. Now, some of you may be going, why didn't he put a dovetail on that? Well, this is a one-way chuck, and it doesn't have dovetail jaws. So that would be my other piece of advice, is know your chuck. Not every chuck out there has dovetail jaws. And if you cut a dovetail on one that has a little bead on it or has straight jaws like the one-way does, you got a problem. Again, I'm just checking that, going around checking it on the other side. I know there's probably some argument there whether we should tighten one side or both. I figure it's got two holes. I'm going to give it a whirl on both sides. Now, some of you may be going, well, you know, I can't really do platters because I don't have a bandsaw. I can't make it round. Well, that's one of the reasons that I'm going to work with a square here today. Let's see, let's go back to this other camera. Zoom out just a little bit, wrong way. Again, we're checking to make sure that thing is free to turn. And on this one way, that knob can go either way. It's much more convenient if it's not pointed out at me. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, you'll notice, and I am not coming straight into the wood. I see so many times, especially on YouTube, folks that have been using maybe a carbide tool, and there's nothing against carbide tools, but somebody told them to lay it flat on the tool rest and push it straight in. So that's what they do.
They lied to them.
Now, folks, that's just a couple of cuts. We're going to stop and move in a little bit more. Yeah, Captain, when I first started turning, I went to a store here in Houston, and I bought a carbide tool, and I knew nothing about it. It had a hunter type cutter on the end of it. And the folks there at the store told me, lay it flat and push it straight in. I had wood and tools flying all over.
That's a good point, Dean. And the other is, folks, if you wonder how your tools cut, run your lathe down to 1 RPM, just one, and or have somebody turn it for you and watch the cutter cut.
Now, all we did there, folks, is just make it round. We're going to take one more cut. We've got a little bit right there. But for you folks that don't have a bandsaw, and you don't think you can turn a bowl because you don't have a bandsaw, hopefully I just disproved that.
Just as quick, isn't it, Dean?
I'll tell you what, sometimes I can do one quicker like that than I can doing it with a bandsaw. Because first of all, I got to get everything off my bandsaw. Good golly, you know.
You also have to think that right now you've got a round piece in front of you, and that is the maximum you can get out of your piece. Now, when you stop the lathe and you're looking at the grain, suppose there's a great grain pattern over on one side, and you want to make that the accent and move the center over. The way he's doing it right here is the easiest way to get around, get to it. Well, look at
now,
that.
what we're going to do here is, folks, you saw me make the mark right there. We're going to go in and make just a little bit of a recess, and we're going to form the bottom of our little plate here. So to do that, I'm going to use a skew. I'm just going to come in. Got the right camera on. I'm just going to do just a little bit of straight. I am probably, yeah, let's go on in. We're going about an inch. Okay, we're at about an 1/8 of an inch right there. And then what we're going to do, hold on, we need to drop that down just a little bit, folks. Turn your lathe off when you go to move this, especially when you're in close like that. I know it's tempting to not do it. Okay, we're just going to take a cut right here. Take just a little bit out of that. Just come back in, just ever so slightly smooth that out. That's it. Now that I've done that, I'm going to come across here. My hand is not pushing the tool. It's right away from pushing it right down. we need to smooth that out just a little bit.
Dean, if you're not aware, the microphone you're using is killing out the high spikes when you're making those cuts. So you'll have to speak after you make those cuts.
Okay, is it kind of tuning this out a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. So what we've accomplished here is we've rounded this over slightly. We've got about 1/8 of an inch recess there. We're ready to shape our bottom. One of the things that I recommend, and my pencil went away. Just a second to find something. Here we go. One of the things I recommend is find here, where do we want our bottom to be? So if we put a mark there, we know we can't go past that. Otherwise, we're going to end up with our platter too thin. And actually looking at that, let's do one more thing real quick. You want to make sure that what you're looking at over here is true. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to come in and smooth this outside edge up just a little bit.
Hey, Dean, hey, Dean, for the group, can you show the tool presentation that you're doing there to face that off?
Is this better? Can you see it better now?
There you go.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're going to come in, and all we're doing is taking a light cut right here. And we just want to make sure that when we're looking at this edge, that it's running true.
You're cutting with the right flute. You're cutting with the right flute about what, 4:30, 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I've got it running about 2 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
See, I'm pointing straight into the flute right here. Just coming in and pulling that back. You don't want to be taking a big heavy cut at that point. Let's see. I like to come in here and make myself a mark. I want to go about a third, and a third. Now, why? This is what we're going to set this platter on. We're going to roll over, and then we're going to roll back out, doing just a little bit of an oji cut. So what we'll do is we'll come in. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a full length view here. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm just cutting it and I'm locking in. And as I make that cut, I'm just moving my body. And I'm pushing with my right hand. Notice my thumb is in the flute. If I had my finger here, I'm pulling or pushing. If I put my thumb in the flute and just let my fingers rest on the bottom of the tool, now I'm just letting the tool do the cutting. And I'm pushing or driving with my right hand. Hopefully you guys could see that well.
Yes.
One more time there. Okay, now that we've got that done, we're going to come in and run this over. As soon as you start trying to move it with your hand like I did, or your arm, you'll find that. Can we see the profile a little better there?
Yes, much better.
Okay. I'm not going to go through a lot of sanding on this. Normally on these, I'll hit it with 150, 220, and maybe a 320. But I'm going to take it that everybody knows how to sand, so we'll skip that, all right?
We'll let that one slide.
All right. Sometimes, and I'll go ahead and do it on this one just to give you guys a view. Sometimes I'll come in here right at that edge and a little bit of an edge there. Also, one of the things that you can do is go ahead and roll that tool over, drop that handle down, and let's do a shear straight. I don't know if y'all can see, but that's just very tiny.
Those wispies you want to pay, you'd pay for it. That's the ones.
Yeah, let's see. This is the one I want. You see how fine, well, there we go.
That tailstone.
You see how fine that is on that. And you can do that and just almost eliminate the sanding. So folks, once we've sanded this, we're done with this bottom. Any questions up to now?
Anyone?
Open floor, folks.
So we're going to turn it around. We've got about 1/8 of an inch there that chuck is gripping. And we want to look at something right here. Let's go with that one. Do we see the gap in here?
Well, we're still moving. Okay.
Keeps going.
There you go.
See the gap in here about the width of my finger. So that's how thick we are in the middle right now. Normally on my platters or plates, I'll do them a little bit thicker than I will some of the thinner bowls and stuff. And I've got that set at about 3/16, just a little under 1/4. And so what we'll do is we'll start working from the outside and we'll work our way in and just keep checking that with this so that we got an even thickness all the way through. Let's see, let's give you guys this view. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I know I'm going to want this rounded over on this outside. I'm just going to break that edge. Once I've done that, I'm going to come back out here and I'm going to break the edge on this one. And all I'm doing is really just rounding that over. Once that's done, we're just going to start taking little cuts. Until we get it down to the thickness on that first inch that we're looking for. Once we get an inch in there, I'm going to stop cutting and start working on thickness. And again, you can't stop too often. You see, we're to there. We're a quarter of an inch in on our thickness. Okay, so once you think you've got your thickness right there, you come in and measure it, and we're right on all the way from the outside down to that section right there. So at that point, we'll come in and we'll bias another inch. Now, why do I do an inch at a time? Some of you guys know, but as you thin this out, wood starts to move. And if you just start running through and you try to thin it all the way out, this out here will start to move. That's when you'll get your catches, you'll get your bowls and your platters blowing up on you. It just gets to where it's not pretty at that point. Also, remember, as you start approaching that bottom, you've got a recess coming in there 1/8 of an inch thick. So you got to compensate for that just a little bit. We're to right there and we're sticking. So we know that we need to come down just a little bit there. And back out here, pick it up right there where you just a tad more and we'll be into the bottom. And that's when we don't want it to be quite as thin. We want to allow just a little bit more. Because again, got 1/8 of an inch recess. So we're good to right there. And that's where we're hitting the flat part of our bottom going across. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and take us another inch. Now, cutting across like this, cutting in the end grain. That's why you'll see a lot of folks that come in like so, cutting side grain the whole way. Much easier to cut, get a smoother cut, and it's not as hard on your tool. Okay, what I did is I backed that off just a little bit to compensate for that bottom. We'll go right into our lip. I'm going to back off to compensate for our lip. And we're doing good right on in there. We can go ahead and take this middle part out now. Let's keep working our way further in. Folks, there's a couple of things we need to check at this point. Is our bottom flat or do we have a dome? And looking at that, we have just a little bit of a dome. So we're going to look at one more thing. Let you guys see this right here. Let's see here. If you look there, we've got about 1/4 of an inch. Some of you are familiar with how thick a chuck key is. That's 1/4 of an inch. So we're 1/4 of an inch off the face of that chuck, and we've got a dome. Remember, we had a 1/8 inch recess in there. So let's fix that. And you know what? Let's go to a freshly sharpened chisel. Can you guys see from that angle as we're coming across? Probably better go with this one.
Yeah, that one's better.
Okay, so we're going to pick up right about in here. We know we're good to there. Absolutely there. Went in. And we started that cut off gradually. We ended up at an 1/8 of an inch cut. It's a smooth cut. Let's see where we're at as far as, looks like we're straight across, folks. Any questions as what we did there?
No, but I got a comment on this. Folks, if you're a new turner or you've experienced turning, you're having difficulties, a rise in that center or a terrible dip, a slight dip, will reflect the light and kill the presentation of your piece.
So folks, let's see here. Let's take a look at this real quick. Yeah, it didn't take us but a few minutes. Obviously, it would have taken a little bit longer if we'd have gone through the sanding process. However, take a look at that. That's a plate you can eat breakfast off every day. From now on, give it to your kids. They can eat off of it every day and pass it on to your grandkids. As long as you oil these about once a year, you can use them every day. Wash them with soap and water, dry it off, and set it up so it can dry. These things will literally last from now on. I've got one that I've been eating off of almost every day for right at 3 years now. It's no worse to wear than it was when I first started using it. And I tell you what, there's a certain amount of enjoyment of having lunch or breakfast off a plate you made from a piece of wood. Go ahead, Captain.
Remember, they are not dishwasher safe.
Oh God, no.
No. Wash them gently. You know.
Yeah. I can tell you what I wash mine with. You know the little green Sprite scrubby pads?
Yeah.
I use that and Dawn dishwashing detergent.
Dawn.
I scrub it down.
Better?
Yeah, scrub it down, dry it off, and let it set out in the open. Don't put it in a closed up cabinet where it can't dry out.
Good tip. Yep. All right. Well, that's a very nice demonstration, Dean. And you explained a lot in turners. If you notice, at no point did he ever plow that tool into that wood. No point. He did slicing cuts or scrapes all the way through. And that saved his piece. Now, if you don't believe me, save that piece is out there smoother than some stuff that you would turn and leave your shop with. That's how well it's sliced. It's very nice. Great demo, Dean. Great demo.
Good job,
Thank you,
Dean.
Captain. I appreciate it. Thanks, Dane.
Thanks for taking the time and explaining and demonstrating the 1 inch incremental turning there.